start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next regular meeting is scheduled for Friday, April 28th, 2017 at 9 a.m. at the Community Center, 3500 Edgewater Drive, Sebring, Florida. Please silence or turn off your cell phones. Have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve it.
Second.
Is there any questions on the...
Not from me.
Nothing.
Okay, but before we start on the action agenda, I'd like Ron Hanley to come up, and he has a meeting he has to go to, so he can brief us on the road.
Good morning. Tuesday at the commission meeting, we discussed our capital financial strategy for the coming year, and of course in that was the paving of Schumacher Road. I have been working as hard as I can to get the county off dead center and get that paved. After much deliberation, what we settled on Tuesday, we're in the middle of trying to set up a new road project, a new road program for the whole county, and so this is sort of trying to get this ahead of this road program that's probably going to take a year to get in place. So in doing that, I got to the point with the rest of the commissioners that we've agreed to pave Schumacher Road. We don't know yet whether we're going to pave the entire road all the way to Blueberry, but what I got at least out of the rest of the commissioners was that we're going to go as far as Cortez and make the connection to the intersection of Cortez, which Tanya's already, or you all have already gotten the property that you needed to make that connection. I think there's one other little issue you're still working on there, but other than that, you've got that connection ready. And what we came up with is we generally try to get participation of whatever subdivision we're helping out, so to speak. And so with that, my argument to the other commissioners was, look, this is a collector road. This is more than just a community road. This is a very important road for evacuation of Sun and Lakes. I mean, right now you've got one way in and out, and that would give us another way in and out. And with that, they bought into that idea that it really is a collector road, and so we could pave it under a little different set of guidelines. So with that, we came to the agreement that if it's okay with your board, if you could, Tanya's already committed enough money to cover the intersection of Cortez. Now we need you all to cover 25% of the cost to pave, and that's the cost. No, you'll see exactly what we've got in it. 25% of the cost to go at least as far as Cortez and about, 50 feet beyond at least. And we're using a number for budgeting purposes of $200,000, which would mean your commitment would be $50,000. If it comes in under that, which we really think it will, then obviously we'll adjust your number accordingly. Also, the 50 grand that we've got already in here for Cortez, we feel like that's a little bit, maybe a little more than we need, so some of that money may apply to this. So the worst case scenario would be for you all to cover the 50,000 plus what you've already put into it, and then if we can say grace over that today and get your permission, then we'll do an interlocal with the county. We'll pay for it up front, and then after we're finished, then we would bill you back for your 25%. And that's, if you have any questions on that, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any questions, guys?
Gator, did I get that right? Okay.
What happened to the 100% here a while back that they were talking about? It just disappeared?
100% of what?
I thought the county was going to just pave Schumacher with no obligations.
No, sir.
Okay. Well, the one sent stuff out to everybody that lived up and down it, and most of them rejected doing it? That was what, a year ago, 2 years ago?
Oh, that's, yeah, or 3 years ago, or
Okay.
the way time flies, yeah, a long time ago. I had a lot of pushback, so this was a negotiation that I felt like was a pretty good compromise, and I think it's the best deal we're going to get, so there we have it.
Ron, my question is, do you know that we own no property between Schumacher and Cortez?
Do I what?
We don't own any of that property,
Okay.
but we're still being asked to pay.
Well, you need to make that connection with Cortez, I think. That's pretty critical to the district.
Okay.
As well as the county. I mean, and that's what I'm hanging my hat on, is that we need that, and we just need some participation. If we go by the old rules, yeah, then we would have, and this is what the others argue with me, that it should be at least a 50% participation. And I said, no, wait a minute, this is a collector road, this needs to be looked at differently. So that's where I got to the 25%. They were at 50, I was at 0, and we ended up at 25.
Is anybody else, if you go all the way to Blueberry, going to be
Is
assessed?
anybody else what?
Going to be assessed?
Assessed?
Yeah.
No. If the county, and it looks like they've decided that once we move in here, we will probably go ahead and do all the way to Blueberry, but I'm not promising that. That's kind of still out. But no, there will be no other assessment other than the $50,000.
Okay.
To you all, to Sunny Lakes, correct? No. No.
Is there any public comment?
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead, Mark. You didn't speak up, I'm sorry.
I was just waiting for you to finish. Wouldn't this has to be put into a resolution, correct? So you would bring it back to the board for a resolution to apply those funds?
Based on what Mr. Hanley's saying, my guess is that the county will prepare the interlocal agreement they want us to execute, and that'll get brought to the board for approval.
The county would prepare the
Yeah,
interlocal agreement, and then
yes.
we'd bring it back to the board for a resolution, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks, Ron.
Public comment?
I think Wally's got
Yeah, I just want to ask, I know this is important, and I know Ron would bring it up, it wasn't very important, but do we have the money? Can we find the money to put this in our next year's budget? Well, Ron, this will happen in the next fiscal year, right?
I hope it happens sooner than that.
Okay.
I mean, I'm pushing to start it
I know
ASAP.
Next week, yeah.
And I mean, we've got some traction. I think reimbursement might be your next fiscal year.
That's what-
Yeah,
that- yeah.
Yeah, because we
Okay.
probably couldn't get it finished before then anyway.
Yeah.
We have $50,000 in the budget currently to extend Cortez. We don't have an additional 50, but we can do a budget amendment, or if it's the next fiscal year, we can incorporate it into next year's budget.
Okay, and that'll be discussed once the interlocal agreement's been developed? That we can sit down and discuss it then?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I mean, I can go to the county with that and tell them, so you've got the 50, the first 50 and the second 50 will be next fiscal year. I'm sure that's fine. I don't see an issue there. I mean, realistically, I'm not sure we can get it through before. Maybe. It'll be close to the end of the year, in fiscal year. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I
Anything
have to
else?
agree. I think it's needed, but we didn't have it budgeted, and if you could extend it out, I would be in favor of it.
Yeah. Me too. There's no doubt I would be, because I know how important that would be to have that road back there, and listen to you, and I do believe what you're saying here, that it is important, and it's going to be a collector road. So myself, when I come in that way, I would go down that way if I could hit Cortez down there.
Right.
Have to go meander through.
Yeah, everybody that lives on this side of the subdivision will be using it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Ron, we appreciate all the work you've put in it. I know that you've put a lot of work in it and have cut our expenses way back. Thank you.
Okay, that's it. I need a motion to approve the action agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Resolution number 2017-04-07-19, a resolution of the Sun and Lake Sebring Improvement District approving the 2018 meeting schedule for the regular meetings of the Board of Supervisors.
Motion approved.
Second.
Supervisors, attached for your consideration are the board meeting dates for 2018 calendar year. We're bringing this to you very early due to, we don't want to have any conflicts with the MGA schedule, so we'd like to bring this to you early. This is what we did last year, so if you have any comments or questions about any of those dates that I've proposed, we can discuss those now.
Yeah, I do. I've gone over the past calendars, and I've talked to Tanya about this. I know being here in the summer and so forth, how things go, I'm just wondering if we really need that June the 8th meeting. We've gone over things we were going to cover. It hasn't been on the agenda for 2 years now. And I remember those meetings in the summer are kind of short and sweet. So I'd just like to know if we really need that one meeting. The others I'm fine with.
June 8th is not a typical meeting date that we would talk budget at all. I know for the last several years, we've had a second June meeting, but before that, I'd say maybe 2014, 2013, we did not have a second June meeting, unless it was some sort of a special meeting or an emergency meeting.
Yeah. Well, I can see that adding to it if it's needed and so forth, but we've lived without it in the past, the boards have, and I just thought, why have it if we to have a meeting?
Comment I have, August 24th, I'd like to move that to August 31st. It still allows 2 weeks between the September 14th meeting. And the reason for that is I know a lot of people like take vacations in July and August, and it just creates a little larger window for people to do that, so.
I agree with that.
I don't have a problem with it.
Anything else, you guys?
No night meetings
I did not schedule a night meeting in 2018. We can certainly add a public hearing evening meeting if we do need that. Now, for 2017, in July, we do have an evening public hearing scheduled. But for 2018, that is something we can certainly entertain if we need to.
We thought we could add it if we got people wanted it.
Like June 8th?
Yeah, like June 8th.
Smarty.
Yeah.
No comment.
Yeah. Is there any public comment on this?
All right, so we're scratching the 8th?
Well, how do we do it? When you do it one at a time, you want to?
You're eliminating the June 8th and changing August 24th to August 31st.
Right.
Said that there needs to be a motion to amend to make those proposed changes. Vote on that, then there'll need to be
Right.
public comment on that amendment, and then you can vote on the resolution as amended.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to amend the 6-8 and 8-24 to make it 8-31.
Second it.
Any public comment on that?
Public comment? Okay.
So now we take a
Chrissy?
vote on the amendment.
Supervisor Edgell,
Yes.
Supervisor Camp,
Yes.
Supervisor McCullough,
Yes?
Supervisor White,
Yes.
President Gilpin.
Yes.
Now do it again to approve it as amended, to approve the resolution as amended.
Can I have a motion to approve it as amended?
I'll make a motion to approve it as amended.
Second.
Any public comment? Okay, Chris.
Supervisor Camp,
Yes.
Supervisor McCullough,
Yes?
Supervisor White,
Yes.
Supervisor Edgell,
Yes.
President Gilpin.
Yes. Resolution number 2017-04-0720, a resolution of Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District to approve budget amendment number 5 to the 2017 budget to transfer funds from the utility fund to the general fund.
Supervisors, attached for your consideration is a budget amendment to move our full-time position that is allocated in our Conservation and Resource Department and move those funds to the Roads and Drainage Department. We are not creating a full-time position, but what we are doing is we are restructuring that department and moving funds over to the Roads Department. The Roads Department will now be responsible for overseeing the environmental and mosquito spraying. So that's the purpose of the budget amendment today. We're not creating a full-time position, we're just moving the funds from the Utility, Conservation and Resource Department to the general fund roads.
You guys have any comment?
Sounds good to me.
Public comment? Okay, Chris.
Supervisor McCullough?
Yes.
Supervisor White?
Yes.
Supervisor Edgel?
Yes.
Supervisor Camp?
Yes.
President Gilpin?
Yes. Resolution number 2017-0407-21, a resolution of the Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District to purchase a new Dell server with backup systems under a state contract with Dell for $10,136.95.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
So management seeking the board approval for the purchase of a Dell server. We've worked with our IT consultant on assessing our needs and seeing what equipment needs to be upgraded. I've provided an excerpt from an email that the IT consultant submitted, and I'll read verbatim. It says, "The golf server is 6 years old, has been running low on memory and experiencing occasional disk controller errors. Not replacing the servers will most likely lead to additional errors and possible catastrophic failure in the future. Additionally, the current backup system is an external hard drive attached to a USB port. This is better than nothing, but by far from what should be in place. Having a tape backup system which can have tapes removed and taken off to an off-site location is preferred." So we've gone out to Dell, we've obtained state contract pricing. The pricing for the server is $10,136.95. We have the budget in this year's current budget, so we don't need a budget amendment. So we're proposing go ahead and purchase that Dell server for the golf shop.
Okay, any questions, Greg?
No.
Not for me.
Public comment?
Supervisor White?
Yes.
Supervisor Edgel?
Yes.
Supervisor Camp?
Yes.
Supervisor McCullough?
Yes.
President Gilpin?
Yes. Resolution number 2017-0407-22, a resolution of Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District to award audit of financial statements for the year ending September 30th, 2017 to McDermott, Davis and Company of Orlando, Florida for $25,000.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
So this resolution is looking to extend our contract with McDermott Davis for auditing services. They're in the process of finalizing our fiscal year's 2016 audit at the moment. Our contract with them has expired. They proposed a one-year renewal with 2 additional years at the same price of $25,000 per year. No increases for the next 3 years. Each term, we can decide whether we want to maintain McDermott or cancel at that moment. So we've been working with McDermott since 2012. And we'd like to keep that relationship going. We're proposing to go ahead and extend that contract into the future.
Any comment?
It's my understanding that that their original bid, when this started, was considerably less than anybody else's. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
Just so the public knows, we have to do this, right, Dan?
Yes, this is a
It's
requirement
something
by
we
the
have
state
to
of
do,
Florida. This
so-
is not an option.
Okay, public comment? Okay.
Supervisor Edgel?
Yes.
Supervisor Camp?
Yes.
Supervisor McCullough?
Yes.
Supervisor White?
Yes.
President Gilpin?
Yes. Resolution number 2017-0407-23, a resolution of the Sun and Lake Sebring Improvement District to declare certain tangible properties owned by the district as surplus and authorizing the sale and disposition by the district of such surplus property.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Management has prepared a list of surplus equipment. All of these items listed for you have either exceeded their useful life or they're no longer usable. The equipment will be sold at auction by Insight Auctioneers, and that's in Sebring, Florida on State Road 66. If any of the equipment that we've listed, especially on the office equipment, is in too bad of a condition level, I'll allow Mike Hurley to, decide what to do with it. But do you have any questions about any of the equipment? The equipment that we've listed first, of course, is some of the golf mowers. We do have the number of hours and their condition levels for you here, and some of the gators.
No, the only thing I have to say is I've owned gators, and I can't believe you got 5,000 hours on them, 6,000 hours on them. They're done. So I'm glad you can get what you can get. And I understand the rate from the auctioneers only $10 a unit?
$10 a unit.
Yeah.
But there is a freight fee if they do. They're probably going to help us pick up some of the equipment, possibly. Some of it, but they do charge us a freight fee, which is outside of the $10, but it is $10 per item. So no matter if it's $1,000 or $50, they charge us $10. Or $8. Yeah, that is, that's correct.
I think that's great.
That's true.
Public comment?
Supervisor Camp?
Yes.
Supervisor McCullough?
Yes.
Supervisor White?
Yes.
Supervisor Edgell?
Yes.
President Gilpin?
Yes. Okay, next is the discussion of the 2018 PGA Tour Latino American Qualifier.
Strictly up for discussion, correct?
Right, just discussed.
I would be in favor of it, but I am not in favor of it at the $23,000 figure. During that time of the year, things don't heal up. I've said all along, I thought we needed to get more money from it. The PGA makes some very good money out of it. In the $26,000 range, I would be in favor of it, but not in 23.
I definitely have a comment. On July 22nd, we had a discussion here about the Latino tournament, and this is after discussions that we knew it was coming, so I asked other golfers about what they thought about it. And I was under the impression that Jim, you said in that meeting that the Canadian Tour qualifiers expressed an interest of having a host here, and I appreciate you getting that settled. But the golf committee was unanimously in favor of hosting the tour qualifier. This is the last year that's a Canadian. This is the last year of the Latino American U.S. qualifier contract. It is his recommendation, Jim's, to not renew the contract because January timing doesn't serve the club's best interest. And I remember us talking about that. And I agree with that. I think this is the wrong time to be having the tournament. I think it's a week off for golfers who can, and especially the people who are affected by it, they only come down here as snowbirds. They lose that whole week. Now, you can go play on other golf courses and so forth like that. I think it's the wrong time of year because of the damage done to the golf course. And I think having one tournament, the Canadian Tour, in April, coming up, next week? Is a great time to have it. I think it's very appropriate. But I'm not in favor of the Latino Tour qualifier in January. Now, I'm not quite sure when they're paying $20,000 to $23,000 or whatever that number is. I'm not quite sure that's kind of profit. Jim, you and I haven't been able to talk about this. We got to have some cost in it, some damage in it. We're lucky to have volunteers at our golf course, which they're do what you want. I mean, we were all going out and carry ice and water and fix divots and stuff like that. But what type of profit margin do you think, what type of profit do you really think we would stick in our pocket for the Latino tour?
Well, it does change every year based on weather, and we have moved the event. The estimate has always been between $10,000 and $15,000 profit. Changes every year, and that's at the rate this year where they compensated us $20,000, for the use of the golf course. So that would change if that compensation went up or down.
Okay. Okay. Now, in figuring that profit margin, is the loss of green fees taken into consideration? Because I know we're going to lose a lot of green fees that week.
Yes, well, it looks at everything. It looks at food and beverage and green fees and so forth. Because of the placement of the week being right at the very beginning of the month, and traditionally the weather not being great, it's not a huge green fee impact. It isn't what it would be 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
So the third week of January is very different than the second.
Yeah. Okay. But now, can I have just one more question? The Canadian tour, we've got that settled. We're under contract.
We have the Canadian tour is under we went into there with a 3-year expectation with a revocable clause on each side. We ended up with just a 1-year contract that we will negotiate immediately after this year.
Yeah. And what do we get this year?
$23,000 for course use from them.
Kurt, Mark?
Yeah.
I was waiting for Mark. He looked like he was.
Actually, originally when we did have the meeting on the 22nd, I was under the impression that it had died. It was done. It was over with. However, I did receive an email on the 14th, and the downside of some of the sunshine laws is I don't know what the others are thinking or what they might have asked. And Jim, you had sent out an email essentially asking if we could re-examine this. And I felt that because we had our memberships are down and we needed some additional revenue, that it might not be a bad idea to revisit this. And I actually sent you an email back to that, and I'd be more than happy to read what is in it. But the bottom line I said is, although the membership has indicated that they really didn't want it, I thought if the revenues outweighed the losses and some of the disadvantages of having the tournament here, then it might be in the best interest of the district overall. And so I explicitly said at that time, if you can provide me a revenue, the revenue that we got, and if it's attractive enough, I certainly would entertain the idea of supporting this. But I was also inclined to say that the tournament has run its course, and we'd have to decline hosting it if you don't have some revenue numbers. Now, Wally just asked the numbers of in terms of revenue, and I understand that it goes up and it goes down from year to year, but I still haven't got a definitive answer as to how much we really did get, or a breakdown on that. So, I mean, to say 10,000, which might be the number, is good. To say 15,000 would be better, and certainly more. I don't think we get a lot from food and beverage revenue there. I think that maybe it's coming just from the green fee side of it. So, unless I see a number that really would justify bringing it back, I certainly wouldn't, vote for it. And I would be inclined to have a higher rate than the $23,000, because that's currently what we're charging the Mackenzie or the Canadian tour. That's just my thoughts.
Well, I kind of dispute your $10,000 profit, because they're here 5 days, is that correct?
Yes.
So you're saying you're making $2,000 a day profit. Well, if you eliminate 40 if you figure green fees are $40 a piece, that means you're displacing 50 rounds of golf per day. And I'm disputing your $10,000 profit. And I agree with Mark, this is a public golf course. We need to make a profit, but I'm not sure your $10,000 profit is correct. So, can you tell me what the revenue was the week before that week and then the week after that, so we can kind of get an idea what the revenue stream is? Do you have any of those kind of information with you?
I don't have that readily available, but
I mean, to make this easy, we just take the 23,000, add Mr. Hanley's 50,000 to it, and I think we got a deal. So we'll charge him $73,000, and we got him taken care of too.
sounds like a plan.
All right. Well, I guess my point is I think it's a good marketing thing. I think it's good for the community. It brings people in from outside the community. Whether any of those people ever come back, that's a different story. But they might have grandparents, or they might have parents that know this kid that's coming here, and eventually some of that kind of works into growing this community. And I hate to take away anything that brings outside people into our community. And if we can do it at a nice profit, taking in, the green fee loss and also the repairing the golf course. I think this year the golf course repaired itself very quickly. Of course, we had a nice winter too as well, but I don't think there was really any impact on the member play or the guest play that we had here. So I would be in favor of it if you can show me a definite profit stream to this thing, and I don't think your $10,000. In other words, you're saying you're making 50%. They're giving us 20, and we're making 10. I don't believe that number. It doesn't make sense to me. But if you can give me a good profit structure, then I would be in favor of it.
Jim, I have a couple statements, but first of all, in July, we voted, and there was a consensus, it wasn't a vote, but we voted 5-0, just by going here, that we were not going to bring it back. That's number one. Number two is we voted just up here, 5-0, to not cancel January's, because we were asked, do you want to cancel January's 1? And we said, no, we have a contract. We should honor it. So that's two consensus votes up here. And so as naive as I am, I thought it's done, like Mark. I mean, I thought you would get on the phone and say, man, I saved it for you this year, but you're done. And then I hear 6-7 months later, they don't even know that they weren't going to be here. So that I respectfully do not like that. I mean, you can count the 3, and that's all it takes. And there was certainly a consensus last summer that number 1, we were going to let them have it one more year, and number 2, it wasn't coming back. And then I hear 6 or 7 months later that you reconsidered. Well, respectfully, that's not your job. We, as a consensus, now it's probably somebody's fault that was president didn't ask for a vote. But I just don't understand how this stuff happens. And maybe you can explain it, but the people of this community do not want that. And I don't care if we make 30,000, I'm not in favor of it. Because I've told 150 people they're not coming back. So, I don't explain to maybe me how all this happened, because you were told that it wasn't coming back. Now, we didn't vote, but we all stood up here, all 5 of us, and Kurt wasn't here, but Rick Colbert was, and nobody wanted it this year. So, that's all I have.
So I guess to answer your question, I am new to government, so I maybe don't have a clear understanding of how things are done. We had a contract in place that we chose to exercise. My understanding would be once that contract was fulfilled, we would officially, there's discussion, and in my mind, there's official board motions and movements. So first off, it was not my decision to reopen anything. The tour contacted me to find out what our feeling was, and my understanding of my position is to understand from the supervisors what that feeling is at this meeting with a vote, when it's a major thing like the Latino. My answer is I did not feel there was any official movement on the Latino tour, any official direction. And yes, I do agree with you, and I will ask David for any help in the future to make sure that, things that should be voted on and should be part of the record, should happen that way, and not have an implied understanding. That's just not going to serve anyone for us to work under what's implied as opposed to what's voted on. And really, with that being said, I would just say that, we're operating a business here, and it's a fluid business. It changes all the time. That vote wasn't taken. It wasn't official. We didn't anticipate a $30,000 to $40,000 drop in membership. We didn't anticipate the course recovering the way it did this year. A lot of new information has happened that we can either choose to consider or not. And that's really going to be up to the board, and that's the reason that we're talking about this. But one thing you can be assured of is I will not make unilateral decisions not involving the board. The board runs the important decisions at the club. And as long as I'm, running the club, the board's going to be, running it.
David, would you, in the future, whether I'm president or not, make sure that, or at least remind us that maybe we ought to take a vote on something like this? Because, when I'm not saying Jim's wrong in just what he said, but I'm telling you what, I thought this thing was done, and we didn't have to mess with it ever again. And it's just not this. I don't want stuff like this happening. And so if you can help us.
Absolutely. I don't have a problem doing that. If rather than take any sort of consensus stuff for the record, we can put it to a vote if we think that's important. But and to say, not to jump in where my opinion is not wanted, but if people are bringing offers to the district, I think it is somewhat of a responsibility to bring it to the board, to make the board aware of it. I mean, the decision that the Latino tour is not going to come back, that's understood. But I think if the price was right, if we had a $73,000 offer, that's something the board, I'm sure, would want to consider and not just have it unilaterally turned down. So, with that being said, absolutely, we can take official votes for stuff, but I still think there's a responsibility to bring, if the Latino tour or any tour is contacting us and saying, hey, what's the feeling, it should be brought to the board's attention.
Okay, Larry, do you have something else?
Yeah. Rather than just tell them, no, we don't want it, what about giving them like a $27,000 figure, and that way they can turn it down?
No, well, you can make that motion, but
that will give us a decent profit, and that's what we're all looking for.
My point is, we don't know what a decent profit is.
We don't know what it is.
And you're right.
Let's get more information and bring it back to the board to talk about it some more. Because maybe 35,000 is a decent profit. We don't really know what that number is. So.
Okay. Is there
I'll
any
go for
other
that.
discussion up here?
No, other than, as I said, if you can show me the profit, what I originally asked for, then I can make a decision. But I can't make a decision based on no information.
Okay, public comment.
Good morning, Bill Norcross, resident. I'm former chairman of the golf committee, and I was there when they took a vote. And I thought this issue of the Latino American was dead in the water, and through the wishes of the constituents, they felt as though that there was a tremendous disruption of the golf course. The condition of the golf course after was terrible. And there's a whole bunch of circumstances like that that bothered people, and they didn't want it. Become negative, negative, negative. Now, I see the point, as Kurt has mentioned, that it's good advertising. It would be nice if it was profitable. The problem, I think, is that, well, we've had a lot of change as far as, like Dave Bell is gone. And maybe there would be more cooperation as far as repairing the golf course and making it playable again. Because that's what the problem is, that I've filled divots and divots and divots, and it's just a mess for months after. And plus the condition and the overseeding project has changed. I feel as though that if the money was increased, so it would be profitable, I always felt as though when you have a membership and you have 60% of the money coming in, you've got it in the bank. You've got it. Now, you don't know what the weather's going to be in January. You don't know how the conditions are, but if you have a commitment of a profitability, maybe it would be a lot better, because you're not going to have the outside play, or you're not going to have the membership complaining, because they're not going to play in bad weather anyhow. So all these factors taken into consideration, I think that if you want to review this program again, I think it's, like Kurt says, it's good for the community. It'd be of some value. But if the conditions are not going to be attended to, if the maintenance crew is not going to go out there and try to fix the course after these guys play, instead of waiting for all the members to go out there and do all the work, I think there's some kind of cooperation. So I know, Mike, that you are negative about that, but maybe kind of like look at this again, and if the money can come up and the cooperation can come up with the maintenance people, I think it would be of some value. Thank you.
Any more public comment?
Rick Hulbert, resident. I thought that we had a contract that had to be renewed. Am I wrong?
Currently, we are not under contract with Latino America to host them whatsoever, so the contract expired with the 2017 event.
Okay, so we had to renew it to have the 18.
I don't know the correct terminology, David, about renewal. We'd have to write a whole new contract.
Yeah, we're currently not under contract though. The contract terminated with the 2017 tournament.
All right. Excuse me. So what I'm getting at is that when I was on the board, we decided that we weren't going to renew that contract for the year 2018. And that's what I think the president was referring to in our discussion. So I don't think that we needed to have a vote on that. We just decided as a consensus vote amongst the members of the board that we just weren't going to renew the contract. Thank you.
Charlie Shields, resident. First of all, I'd like to state that I was at that meeting, and it was my intention, not my intention, my understanding that the board said no. You voted no, didn't want it. I don't want it. It tears up the driving range, right? It never recovers in January. It doesn't recover in February or March. It goes right on. We have to go out as members and fill divots on all the fairways, right? The greens are not in good shape. This is we were lucky this year. This is the first year the greens, right, in my opinion, are the best that we've ever had. But let me say this. We have spent about $800,000 on various things this year, okay, like signage. And to quote Kurt, I don't see any value. Nobody showed me how many members have come in because of the drive-in signs that we have on 27. We have sunshine law violation lawsuits that totaled like 100,000. We got the Griffin thing that's settled now. That's probably going to be over 400,000. So there's a lot of money that's being thrown around here when it could have gone to the golf course. And having this tournament, in my opinion, is no good. You need the Canadian Tour this week coming up is probably the best time to have a tournament here. January the 1st is not. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay, guys, you got any more to say? No. What would you guys like to do?
I think we're asking for more information. Give us some
That's a
financials
consensus?
and go from there.
I mean, I don't know, I'd kind of like to have a vote on it, because it looks like it might be a consensus, but
Don't need to vote on it.
you know how the consensus votes go.
Well, they're recorded.
So what, is that what you want, more information?
Yeah.
Mark?
I would like to see
Okay.
what the
And Kurt, Larry
profitability
do,
is.
So I can count to 3, so we'll do that.
Okay.
Okay? I won't. Next agenda item is discussion of the assessment methodology.
Supervisors, I sent each of you an email dated March 21st, 2017, and I presented to you the issues raised over the last year or more, many years, regarding our assessment methodology. Our assessment rates have not changed in over this is the 8th year, I believe, so we've remained consistent on our assessment rates. We had a review done of our assessment methodology in 2014. During that review, our Board of Supervisors did not make any changes, and today I'm recommending to have another assessment methodology review to address the issues that I proposed to you in my email. We reached out to real estate research consultants, which I believe now is Community Solutions Group, a service group of GAI consultants. And they were the same consultants that we used in 2014. I would like the board to consider us to use Community Solutions Group again to assist us in the issues that we have with our assessments. I'm not saying that I'm recommending a change. I'm not saying that we're going to recommend an increase or a decrease. I want the ability to review the methodology that we have currently.
Personally, I don't have an issue with the way we do it. I think it's simple, it's clean, everybody understands it. I mean, prior, the suggestions they came up with was lot size was one criteria, and home values was another, and that just gets real messy real quick, and all of a sudden you got one person paying $1,000 more than his neighbor, and I just think it's nice and clean the way it is. Now, whether it's at the right rate or not, I think that needs to be looked at. I think commercial property needs to be looked at, whether we're looking at that properly or not. And obviously, there's some rate changes required in the unimproved lots up north. They need to be looked at as well. But So if these people are going to come in and try to come up with a new way to bake a cake, I'm not interested in that so much, but I am interested in the method that we're using today and whether it's accurate and time sensitive, I guess, if you will, or based on what's going on in the community right now. So it's my thoughts.
Understood.
Anybody else?
Yeah. I actually went back to look at the 2000, the 2008, 2014, and now this new proposal. I'm kind of in the same area as Kurt in that I think we have a process right now that seems to be working, that has to be tweaked in some areas. I did go through, and when you do a methodology, there's a boilerplate. You have to follow certain things, and I'm not sure they're going to do anything different in this study. I actually pulled the documents from 2008 or 2014, and then the proposal they sent to us on methodology. It's boilerplate. It is verbatim, line for line, word for word. They did not change one thing. What they took is, this is my methodology, this is how we're going to apply it. Now, in 2014, when the board had that conversation, and it was a special meeting specifically about the assessments, there was a lot of give and take on that. And if they're coming in and basically going to do the same thing, why would we spend this money? Because the board was adamant at that time that they didn't like the way the methodology was set up. That's
Correct.
just so unless they're going to change the methodology, if it's this way, then it's exactly the same as in 2014. Like I said, it's a boilerplate. So that's just my thought.
Okay.
Wally?
Yeah, I got some thoughts on this too. Although Kurt's covered most of them, and I agree with this boilerplate thing. We had one other survey, as you remember, that that was a $30,000 investment, and it was the same thing. It was boilerplate. I thought that was awful. My only thought would be is that if they want to do this study, would it be possible for them to come in and present to us a proposal of what they're going to do? And much like we did with our architects and so forth, and let us know what they're going to do, and then we can have our input to them and say, no, we'd like to see something in this arena and not that, like you did in 2014, 2008. I only went back to 2014 and looked at it, and there's no way I would ever vote for something like that. I'm glad your board members took care of that one. Is there any possibility of them doing that, come in and make a presentation to us as to what they can do and,
Absolutely.
and the approach they're going to take and so forth like that?
Yes.
Then I would be willing to take this issue up and do it. And I know it would help you and Omar to have something like this in hand. There's no doubt about that. And I would do anything to help you all do that, but I'd like to see them first. I really would, if that's a possibility, and if you guys agree with that.
I would go along with that. We definitely need to make some changes in it. There's some things out of kilter. But the process that they've used before didn't ever look to us or to me like it would work right. And it would, like Kurt said, it would leave half the district mad at the other half because there's going to be some huge variations in things. It's got to get away from acreage and get back to the lots that we have, and yes, they need adjusted, they need equaled out a little bit, but I don't think we need to make radical changes. We need to get them in and see if they can do it kind of off of the formula that we've had, and I presume, David, this formula has worked for years, so it's apparently legal, and
Yes, I'm not going to dispute that it's legal. It's definitely legal. I think one of the issues, based on my understanding, I don't have the full history. I can go back and check with Mr. McClure, but based on my understanding is they haven't changed it. You said 8 years?
7 or 8.
7 or 8.
The rate, the increase or decrease, we haven't changed the rates at all in 7 years, definitely.
And I think that one of the questions is where that base number came from. I think that's one of the issues that we're thinking about or wanting to look at is we don't understand, or at least Tanya and I don't understand, how the base rate was created. You know, what was, it's almost like it was plucked out of the air and said, we're going to charge this amount. We don't know why. So.
What we do understand is we understand how it's billed. The county assigns what we call a DOR code, a Department of Revenue Improvement Code, to that property. So if it's a single family, it gets a number 1. If it's multifamily, if it's a commercial vacant, so there's probably 99 different codes assigned by the county. Once the county assigns that improvement code, we bill based on that code. It's the amount that David is describing to you that we'd like to look at further. And so, you know, if the board is happy with that, and I'm not saying anything, it's definitely legal. I mean, this has been done for 17, 18 years now. We've billed based on this code, DOR code that I explained to you. And our software is built that way. We do need a software upgrade. I think I've talked to most of you about that as well. But besides that, we believe that behind it, you know, it's the amount that's the issue. And many changes have happened here in the last 7 years as well. So we'd like an opportunity to review that.
But I agree completely. I think that having them come in and listen to the board about what the board wants them to consider and do in their study, you know, I think that's very important and a very good idea.
Tanya, I think I asked you in our meeting, but there are a few things we can do without doing any of this if they don't want to do what we want. Like, we certainly got to do something about the vacant lots and their assessment. I mean, we certainly do. And I reject that right away if we're going to lower them and pay $17,000 for them to tell us to lower them. That doesn't sound like it. Is there some things we could do, like if we thought the assessment should go up, raise that, or cut the rates to those vacant lots without doing this, if we had to?
If the board were to consider let's just say you're going to increase the assessments 3% across the board, all categories, that's fine, or decrease. Okay. You could go one way or the other, but there has been discussions in the past about just decreasing certain categories, increasing, you know, and things like that. So David can speak to that.
Whenever you do those type of things, you want to have a reason. You want to be able to explain to the landowners that are being assessed, here's the reason, here's the basis for this change in assessment. And so a few meetings ago, the board accepted and voted to accept the statement of benefits that all parties, all landowners in the district, receive, and that's, those are a list of the benefits that are some of the basis for for us levying assessments. But the question that we're talking about is we need to tie those to amounts, and those amounts need to have a basis. Like I say, I don't know what the vacant lot assessment rate is, but we don't have the question that I have and Tanya has is, why is it that amount? It doesn't seem, based on our research, it doesn't seem any basis for it as to why that amount was chosen.
Yeah, I agree with that, and we need to know why. We need to know what's going on. We need to know the numbers at that time and what's happened through the years and so forth. But I don't want to go out here and tell Charlie, we're going to raise your rates 4% because we brought in a group from Orlando, and that's what they recommended. I want to be able to tell him, here's what we're doing for you. We're going to go with the county and build that new road. And that chart that I carry around with me everywhere, people say, what did we get for assessments? I just start reading them off. But I want to make sure that when I go out here and tell someone, we have to raise these assessments, you're not just going to pay them, I'm going to pay them too. But I don't want to have to tell them that some guy from Orlando come in and told them to, because I don't think they want to hear that.
And this study is just going to be recommendations. The board can take it or leave it. You're not going to obligate yourself to do anything.
Sure, but I'd rather, if I had to go to and I know something's got to be done about the assessments, but I'd rather have a firm basis set up here so when they start throwing eggs, I can start knocking them, waving them off, because we need the facts. So I would do we need a recommendation about, to have them come in, or do we need a motion? Or can Tanya just ask them, hey, guys,
Yeah, it's below the threshold, so I mean, she can, Tanya can execute this contract and have them come in, but I say, obviously, what we want to do is have them come in first and make sure that this is going to be a doable relationship, that you guys are going to be able to work together with them, and I think that if that's the case,
Because I knew at $17,000, Tanya could go ahead and do it anyway, but that's not, I don't think she wants to do that either, but, so.
Well, I wanted to offer this. Mr. Stephen McDonald is here in the audience today, just listening to our meeting. He is with the Community Services Group and GAI Consultants.
Yeah.
He is here today. I can have him, come back at the next meeting or whenever it's convenient. Or if you want to
Do you guys want to ask him?
If you want to ask him anything today, you're welcome to do that as well.
I'd say if he's got anything to
Yeah.
offer now, let him offer it,
Okay.
I guess.
Sir, would you like to come up, please? And welcome to Sun Lake. You can just go ahead and start when you want.
Thank you. Stephen McDonald with GAI Consultants. I guess the first thing I'd like to clarify, as it's referred to as a boilerplate, it isn't a boilerplate. It is Florida law. You have a special benefit assessment. And according to Florida law, you have to follow specific guidelines. So yes, our proposal in a methodology or an approach to a methodology will always look the same. It would be the same for any special improvement district across the state. It would be the same for any municipal service benefit unit across the state. It will be the same because you have to follow Florida law. The other thing I'd like to clarify, and I think as it's been alluded to, yes, there is an assessment, there's a fee schedule, you've been charging, it does seem to work, but I think where we come in, we never come in and tell you, you have to do this, because there is no one single right answer. But there is an answer that conforms to Florida law, more than not. So I do think the biggest issues you may be facing, which we certainly always come in and listen to, and I would also like to reiterate, the last time we analyzed your assessments, while the board may not have been satisfied with our recommendation, it was from listening to staff. So we're more than willing and happy, and that's what we always do, is come in and listen to what you want. I think the real issue is if there are tweaks, you can't just make a tweak. There's nothing within Florida law that allows you to say, I want to reduce just because you have to maintain the relative relationship between all of your uses. Because all of the benefits, however they were established in the beginning, what that fee schedule says today, you have to come in, and if you are going to make changes, you have to make sure that they're all relative to each other, because then you'll get your benefit and burden out of whack. And that will then put you in a position that is not consistent with Florida law. So that's really what our role is. You can frankly, after we make recommendations, after we listen, make recommendations, you could decide not to do anything. That's really not the issue. What we want to try to do is come in and help you solve the issues that you have on the table. But they are, as I will say, continued to be constrained by Florida law. So I don't know if that helps, or if I would entertain any other questions you might have.
We're a complicated community. I mean, I don't know how many other communities are like us in the state of Florida. Not very many.
Not very many.
We have commercial, we have residential, we have multifamily. There are a lot of communities that just have residential homes, and that makes it easy.
Yeah, and I will tell, Tanya brings up a great point. I would have to say that the vast majority, probably 90% of all assessments across the state, are usually focused on a single type of benefit. Their streetlight assessments, their road assessments, their stormwater assessments, their whatever. So then what happens is when you look at, say, stormwater, and you create a stormwater assessment, it's very easy to talk about the benefit that a property receives from stormwater, and then translate that benefit into using a methodology that conforms to Florida law, have an assessment schedule that everybody says that makes sense. Same with roadways, same with street lighting, same with anything that's a single use. I think your challenge is because you have a broad base, as the councilman said, I keep this list of what you're getting. You have a broad base of services, of amenities, of facilities, of maintenance that you are providing through an assessment. It makes it very complicated to have a single methodology that any one individual isn't going to perceive that that's not my benefit. So that's, again, you have to take every approach you can to try to communicate what the methodology is trying to, how the methodology is trying to translate that benefit. But it's very challenging in your situation. I would agree with that.
Anything else, guys?
Just appreciate you correcting me on the boilerplate aspect of it. I am aware that there are laws that you have to follow. What I guess I was referring to when I read it, and I apologize if it was stated incorrectly, or in 9 years, I think our community has grown a little bit. And the understanding here in your cover letter, and whoever put it together, was exactly the same words from X amount of years ago in 2014. That's what I was referring to. And as far as understanding the circumstances under the scope of work, those were also exactly the same. That's why I said at the front, maybe the methodology is set up so that you have to do those types of things. So that just raised a flag.
Gotcha, I understand.
But I do appreciate you correcting it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment on that?
Good morning again. All right, this study that with consultants raises a red flag with me, because that means that we usually have consultants, then we have methodology, and then comes rate change. Now, several years ago, when we had the manager, Gershberger, am I pronouncing that right? He thought we were living too cheap, and so therefore, I think the first rate was 14% increase. Now, I can understand the method of educating everyone as far as the problems you have with trying to placate all the people that live here. We have elderly people, we have widows, we have military, we have disabled, they get different rates. And so it's a really complex problem. I think it's good to have it checked out, to find out what alternative methods are. But I tell you, the experience that I have up north 20, 25 years ago with assessment is that it's funny, you could live next to a chemical company and have a residential home, and the rate is the same. And there's no discount. It doesn't make any sense. So I think that educating everyone as far as the consultants and the methodology and everything else is really of some value. But I find that through the experience that these consultants come from out of town, they come from a more affluent neighborhood, and therefore you people are living too cheap. It's like if you have a $3 drink and somebody comes in and says, well, it should be $5 because you're living too cheap. And I think really you have to take a look at it. At where these people are coming from. Are we going to be compared to Loretta, Wauchula, or we're going to be compared to Naples, Palm Beach, or something like that? So, I think it's a good idea for educating the district as far as the consultants and their particular advantages or disadvantages, or looking at the project so that it could be fairly dealt with. So, thank you.
Anybody else?
Bill, you made one minor mistake. The 14% increase was supposed to last for 8 years. Every year. No. Every year it was supposed to go up 14% for 8 years. And that was the last consultant we had here. And the board did it the first year, and after that, it didn't go any further. We got to kind of watch what we're doing. There's an awful lot of people out there. We sat here the other day in a meeting, and we had a lot of people out here. They were complaining about having to pay for their driveways getting cut up and having to pay for their driveways to be repaired because it affected their pocketbook. Well, you know what? You start affecting their pocketbook again, and you know what? You're going to have problems again. So you better watch what you do up there, because I'm telling you, there's a swale going on. They find out that you want to start raising assessments or monkeying around with the assessments, and it's going to cost their pocketbook some money. They're going to start getting very uptight. So be very, very careful. Because I'm telling you, we don't have very many people here today, but when you start playing around, they're going to be here. And there are going to be a lot of them here complaining.
Anybody else? You guys got anything?
Something that might be helpful, and Craig, you were on the board at the time, I believe, and Larry, you were on the board in 2014, correct? And I know you were on the board. That special meeting that they had, I think it was August 14th, I believe. There's an hour and 10-minute audio. Of course, you guys know because you were in the meeting, but for the benefit of maybe Wally and Mike, if they haven't listened to it, you might want to listen to it because it gives some good insight as to some of the concerns. Now, we all have different and varying opinions, but it does give some insight as to what might happen. Certainly, we had people come from Tanglewood here, representatives from Tanglewood. We had representatives from the hospital. You certainly don't want to upset those people. So I think it's something that we have to be very careful with. And so I think the idea of having them come in and give us an idea what their methodology will be, a little better or a clearer understanding, then that would be beneficial before we make a decision to award a $17,000 contract. Just my thoughts.
I don't have any problem with that at all.
Okay, Tanya, you know what to do, right? Okay. Add-on items,
None.
petitions and communications.
We've received 4 communications to the board. I believe. Okay. I can discuss each of them. I don't have to if the board doesn't have any comments.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
We've received a petition to the board from Joseph Tanzi. He has a request to waive $928 in penalties for 5748 Best Drive. He would like a different lot in the district. This lot is in Unit 10, and we do have a lot swap program that was approved by the Board of Supervisors back in 2010. We've only done one lot swap. I have only done one lot swap in the last 6 years. Omar has had conversations with Mr. Tanzi about what his ideas are about improving the lot. I don't know that he's committed to building here in the district, but if we do entertain, I mean, the penalties is one thing, but if we do entertain the lot swap, if he does not build a home in 2 years, he would be billed the assessment rate as if it were an approved lot, okay? You want to speak to any of that?
No, Mr. Tanzi did show up. He called on the phone a couple times and actually flew down from New York. He toured Sun and Lake and went out and viewed his property, viewed some of the properties that we have for sale and available in the lot swap. He chose one in particular. I believe he's delinquent from 2011 through 2016, which would be 4 or 5 years of assessments. He's willing to pay all the assessments, which is the $499.43 per year. What he's asking for, he doesn't feel it's, I guess, correct for him to be paying penalties on that piece of property that's undeveloped in the back of Sun and Lakes. So he's requesting, he wants to go through with the lot swap, but he wants the penalties to be waived. That's what he's requesting from the board.
Do you know when he acquired the lot? What year?
No, I do not.
Doesn't say here.
No.
Well, I'll speak to it. First of all, I don't understand our policy why we are paying half the closing costs, number one. And he's getting a benefit. He's swapping a lot that eventually would go to the county anyway, so we get no benefit from this piece of property. We're going to give him a piece of property that's better value. It's a buildable lot. The one he's got now is buildable. It's got a road. It's got everything is in place that was when he bought it, so there's no change there. So, first of all, I think we need to review our lot swap program, number one. And number two is, I'm not willing to waive the $928. I don't care if he swaps a lot or not. I mean, there's no benefit to us.
I concur with what Kurt said. You know, the guy hasn't been paying his assessments, and now he's holding us hostage. It just doesn't make sense. He's getting the better lot, we get no benefit out of it, and we lose $928. And he probably continue not to pay his assessment, so I don't quite get it.
I agree with that. He gets the new lot, and he doesn't build on it in 2 years, and he's supposed to pay the assessments as it is improved. He may not pay him then. He certainly hasn't showed an effort to pay him so far, let me put it that way. So there's something that, I'm not very smart, there's something I'm missing in that one.
Larry?
I'm like these other three. I see no advantage to Sun and Lake at all. Oh, lots of disadvantages, no advantage.
One thing I'd like to clarify is that piece of property would never go to the county just because of value. So it will continue to sit there, whether it's in Joseph Tanzi's name or but we will never receive any assessments going forward. It's going to stay in his name forever. The county will not touch it because it's assessed at $1,000, which is, it'll just stay in its current
It has to
state.
go through the tax sale process, right? And eventually it'll get to the county.
They
Eventually.
won't escheat it because of the value. They won't touch anything under, I believe, $5,000 is the threshold for them to escheat a
Well,
property.
then it just sits there then.
Correct.
Period. Yeah.
That's their delinquent.
The thing that got my attention was, that he was nice enough to, I'm willing to pay $3,000. But then that next sentence is, however, and if you know me, however, I am not going to pay the penalties. And right away I went, wow. So, I don't know if you guys want to look at this lot swap, because my first question to Tanya is, I didn't even know what a lot swap was.
We need to. We need to look at that resolution again, yes.
I mean,
And I don't mind if we do something like that, if we make them build. And that's, I think, the overall thing
Yeah,
that
that's
when they
right.
passed it was the
How
reason to
can
do
you-
that.
How can you make them build?
Well, it's because it says it right there. You have to build.
Tanya-
But what you could do then is bill them, right, if they don't build. So,
Bill them what? He's not paying anyway.
Well,
So
That's
wait a
what I
minute.
said.
Yeah, you can't, yeah, you're all luck there.
Yep.
Tanya, how far back does that lot swap go? It must go back quite a ways when they started that.
2010, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, there's
7 years.
another resolution that has a lot swap, 3-31. So that is 2003. And that's, I believe, the very, very first one that was put out there, 3-31. Then there was another resolution adopted in 2010, which is 10-11. So we need to look at both of those.
Could you put that on the agenda? Or,
Yes.
Mr. President, can you
Yes.
put that on the
Yeah.
agenda next meeting?
Consensus is no then, correct?
yeah. Dan, the consensus, or do you want to vote on that, David?
We don't look at-
need to vote on that.
We received another communication from a Mr. and Mrs. Ross. They own property at 8114 Marin Street. The purpose of the letter was to complain about the $499 assessment on a vacant lot, and I have responded to Mr. and Mrs. Ross.
Okay.
We received a communication to the board from Mr. Halbeck regarding the assessment methodology. And we also received a request from Gustavo Ibanez to negotiate fees for new construction.
He's not here.
And Mr. Ibanez is not here.
You guys want to talk about that a little?
No.
Yep. I think if you give one builder a big advantage here, they're all going to be knocking
Yeah,
on the door.
well, that's,
Yeah, Mr. Hanley might want to start building out here if we don't have any impact fees.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
well, I meant you just tell him no. Okay?
simplistic.
Mr. Ivanez?
No.
Okay.
Okay, yes, understood.
Staff reports?
Good morning. Good morning, Tennille Drury Smith, Community Services Director. I just want to go over a couple of events we have coming up. Dash and Die, 5K and Easter Festival is next Saturday, the 15th. We currently have just under 200 runners sign up for the 5K portion, which is trending a little higher than we had last year. So we'll probably get somewhere between 250 and 300 runners based on trends of how many registrations we typically get the last week and same-day registrations. And then the Easter Festival will probably be, we usually get between 800 and 1,200 people attend, but there are a lot of Easter egg hunts going on that day in the county, so I'm not sure how we'll be affected, but I'm sure that we'll still have a great attendance. Alongside with the Dash and Die, we have received $1,700 in sponsorships, which is definitely up from last year, and we have about 50 volunteers coming from Sebring High School NHS. They've continuously been a huge support of all of our events. And the kids come out and work their hearts out for about 5 or 6 hours. So we definitely could not do it without them and greatly appreciate their help. We have summer camp planned starting June 5th. School gets out relatively earlier this year than it has, so we're starting a little sooner, and it will go through August 4th with taking 1 week off during the week of 4th of July because we have our Independence Day celebration on Monday the 3rd, and then the holiday on the 4th. It doesn't really make sense to have camp that week because it'll only be for 3 days. So we have that coming up, and then of course Independence Day celebration on the 3rd will be the same as it always has been. About 5:30 we'll start, and then fireworks will go off about 9 o'clock, weather permitting. So The other item I have, we did have another discussion with the RV and boat parking. Met with Mr. Hurley and Wally, and we're, still gathering information, and we'll be looking to bring something in the future, probably during budget session. And other than that, that's about all we've got going on in the recreation world.
Well, I appreciated her bringing up about the RV and all great dreams have to come to fruition at one time, and it comes to money. So we're putting all those numbers together now and see if we can afford it. If we can't afford it, we can't afford it. If we can and we can make money off of it in a few years, it's a whole different issue. So we're having plenty of meetings on that, trying to figure out that, but then I'll bring it to everybody and take a look at it.
Okay.
Anybody else? Staff?
Thank you. We had the opportunity to host the New Sun Readers Poll last night at the Island View. Kevin hit it out of the park, so we get used to Kevin doing that. We don't take that for granted, but it was very nice. We racked up 8 awards for the community. I don't think anyone else was close to that amount of awards. We were awarded the best golf community in the county by the New Sun Readers, which isn't surprising to me. We were awarded the best golf course, the best golf store, the best golf pro, Andy Kessling, the best range, the best elegant dining, and the best banquet facility, along with the best tennis facility. So, and I'm obviously not objective, but I think they got it perfectly right. So,
we agree.
It was a nice event, most definitely. Just moving in from there into our operations, we still have another month or two of stay and play. It is encouraging. Our person that's in our unit now, who was a referral from one of our members, is actively looking for a property to purchase, to use, and then to possibly even put back into the stay and play pool. So at our next Board of Supervisors meeting, I'll put together something for the board to consider to do the stay and play again next year. Beyond that, we're moving forward with the T project to move it into the RFP stage. We're just gathering the final details to get all of that together so we can put that out to bid. Relative to personnel, Mike Lemire, I've offered Mike Lemire, and he's accepted the position as our F&B director. And Cindy Reese is taking the position that used to be, we referred to Jamie Gallo's position as an administrative assistant position. To me, that was, very misleading because she did mostly HR and bookkeeping, primarily bookkeeping. So I'm going to figure out a new title for Cindy if she even needs a title, but primarily she's going to be handling the accounting and bookkeeping of the club, and Andy's going to take a bigger role in the membership part, at least the financial part of the membership. And then we're going to definitely leverage Kay Mayer's ability with people more into our stay and play and into our future membership program. We're working on our services and getting a lot of traction with what we do at the club. I want to recognize, my staff. Ramon's been here a short time. I feel like when he came here, the supervisor's vision last summer of allowing us to do some extra work on the golf course, was really taking shape. Ramon has done an excellent job at tweaking the processes we had in place. Specifically, everything you're seeing on the greens is Ramon's hand. He's tweaked, we're putting down potash, which is a root stimulator that we weren't putting down before. We've changed our level of Primo, which is a growth regulator that makes the plant move sideways instead of vertical. But in cold weather, it also kind of dwarfs sheer growth. And he's done a couple other tweaks. So, what you're seeing is a result of his expertise. There's still more to come, but I'm definitely happy with the condition of the Deer Run golf course. We still have a lot more work to do, a lot of housekeeping work, and I know we have our list from last year that we want to address. But I feel like we've really gone a long way on that golf course to bringing it up, to the condition we expect. The Turtle Run golf course, it's shown a lot of improvement, but that's going to be our focus this summer, to get a full grow in, and basically use a lot of organic matter, which is called sludge, which will have an odor, and we will primarily do that when the golf course is closed. But I think we all know that that's primarily a sand-based golf course, especially the back nine, and that needs to be addressed. Definitely want to recognize, Andy Kessling and his staff's effort. We've had another busy year, and I think we've done a really good job of trying to, show our members the respect that they need to try to work out with them and all the public play that we bring in, because that's our goal. Kevin, again, is having a great year. I'm always amazed by Kevin's professionalism and the product that he puts out. And that definitely puts us, I'm not surprised at all by our awards. And I'm definitely looking forward to working with Mike Lemire, and I think challenging Mike and our whole F&B staff to basically step it up another notch. I think we have a great staff, but F&B is always your hardest part of running a club. And that's going to be our focus, one of our major focuses, to heighten that going forward. Financially, we continue to outpace our previous year in greens fees, doing a great job there. We are $18,000 behind budget in F&B, which primarily is labor, which we've got contained. And we're still working on the service, which we are getting, good feedback, at least from the golf committee and from the people that I'm speaking with, that the service changes that we've made are being, received positively. That's basically an extra focus on the golfers coming in, an extra focus on Saturday nights. We've had much better results on Saturday nights with staffing changes and tweaks. And then continuing to work on Wednesdays, one of our biggest days for lunch and in the evening. Beyond that, the only other things we really have is I'm waiting on, and I'll recontact Henry Delosier, who's a consultant who worked for Pulte Homes, who I wanted to involve in the stay and play, and possibly looking at how we can expand that program to benefit the district. And he also expressed an interest in coming to talk to the supervisors because of his extensive knowledge of developments of communities. He thought he could be beneficial to helping us build a relationship with a national builder and some outside investors to help us with our quest to kind of kickstart Sun and Lakes development. I think we've, at least from the golf club end, we're getting everything in place for that, for them to come, if you want to say, people to come from the coast, and I think our courses are up to that level, and we expect them to get even better. Are there any questions?
I just had a question on the green fees, what we actually have and what we're budgeting. We're $359,000 behind. Of course, we're in the middle of the year, but we're $52,000 ahead of last year, right?
Yes, sir.
So we're up. We're going. If we're going at the same rate as what we did last year, we're going to top $1 million there.
I didn't understand your question about being
Well, the
behind.
question is, last year at this time, we had taken in $533,000 worth of green fees, and so that puts us up $52,000. I'm on the page 9.
Correct.
And I just wanted to get a feel for green fees because they're so good, I think, is the way I look at this. I know our budget variance is $359,000, but I know we're in the middle of the year. So we are ahead, though, $52,000, right?
Yes,
That's correct.
green fees are doing fantastically. And yes, the year over year, we're 52,000 ahead of the previous year.
Right. So from the previous year, if we keep that rate steady, we should top $1 million this year in green fees, shouldn't we?
Yes,
Yeah.
and since it is April 6th or April 7th, and being 56, my memory's not what it used to be, but we were about 15,000 over for March.
Right.
So, yeah, so we're trending higher. The investment in the golf course, is reaping benefits. It's kind of dramatic, but I was out looking at the greens after Ramon had told me he did something, and these two guys pulled me aside and asked me if I was a superintendent, and they told me that, they were driving from Lake Wales to come down and play here because of the conditioning of the golf course. They used to play in Haines City and in Lake Wales, and they're driving down here. So
Yeah.
I don't really hug and kiss guys, but I wanted to. But, and we're actually looking, I've talked to Andy to try to figure out how we can try to earmark, the 30-minute area of people that maybe wouldn't have driven before, but maybe through our conditioning and some promotions, we can get those people to try to expand our reach.
Yeah, that's a good idea. It's a good idea. Well, I have to compliment you on the greens. I just don't think there's any better greens around anywhere. I still have problems with like the back nine of Turtle and so forth like that, but Ramona and I have talked about that and laughed about that, and we're ready. I know you guys got, the growing season has started, but I think the greens I just can't say enough about the greens. And I can't putt, but I still love those greens.
Jim, you had indicated labor was an issue in terms of the expenditures. It was 16,000, I think, additionally.
Correct, for F&B.
Okay, so that's labor that you brought on to service kind of the demands of the membership and the outside play, correct?
Yes.
Now, am I reading this correctly also, though, that under food and beverage, or food and soft drinks, I guess there's a $12,000 variance thus far to date?
That's correct.
Okay, so our labor costs are roughly 16,000 over, and our food and soft drinks is $12,000 under.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure I saw that. Okay. Do you see any way we're going to recapture some of that loss? I mean, we're going into our slower season now in food and beverage area.
We're having a good April, but I don't see recapturing that. I see holding the line with it.
Okay.
But some of it, I really didn't budget as well as I should have. No, I'm just being honest. I just say it how I see it. I didn't really budget some of the increases in some of the portions of the F&B that I should have budgeted. But with that in place, we are monitoring it really tightly. And we came into this year with a singular focus to really step up the F&B. We had some major challenges on Saturday night and some challenges on other nights. And now I feel like we have those under control. We still have a lot of work to do. I think the server issue that we're talking about, expanding our server right now, our server doesn't have enough space to hold pictures of the members, and that's a big issue at a club You know, when you know somebody's name, it changes the whole interaction of, you know, you walk up to the table, you know their name, you greet them, it just changes everything. And once we can get that server updated and get those pictures in there, we're already focusing on it, but it's a difficult, right now, there's not enough base of the staff who knows people to grow. You know, so I'm really used to wherever I've been at, walking up to an employee and saying, who's that? And if they didn't know, then I was like, why didn't you ask me who that was if you didn't know who that person was? And our challenge now is our knowledge is so low that you can't use that other employee to help you grow the base. So as soon as we get that server in place, we'll get into a big, you know, process of getting that connection, which I think will really make a big change in individualized service and help us. But we are on top of that, and I am, you know, talking to Kevin and trying to look at, you know, different ways. The market's always changing. And so hopefully maybe we're looking at possibly trying to brand ourselves. One of the challenges we have right now is we don't know if really increasing traffic is in our overall interest of satisfaction to the district, because we have so much traffic from golf. So, you know, that's our biggest challenge, is when our shotguns end and when our dinner major demand is happen at the same time. And that really kind of stresses the building.
Well, I can tell you that I've heard positive feedback as far as some of the service in there. So, I mean, we're certainly going in the right direction. And if that means because you put extra people on or extra service, then that's fine. But it seems to be working. So, and I don't know if that's a direct relationship even with Mike starting there too. I mean, he's only been on board for 6 weeks or so, I guess.
He hasn't put his footprint on it yet, but it's definitely, it's been a process with Mike, I guess, if you want to say that. I wanted to make sure it's, you know, this is a life change for him. I think it's a big opportunity for Mike to move into a different, you know, area. And we spent 3 or 4 hours last Saturday going through every day of the year, what his responsibilities would be if we had the exact same year. And he's excited about the change. And he's a very planful person, you know, very complete. So I think it's a kind of exciting thing for us to be able to take our F&B operation, which takes a lot of planning and forethought, and get someone in that position that's really interested in growing it. So I'm looking forward to him coming on board.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the staff? General Counsel report.
All right, Supervisors, as you're aware, the Griffin matter has settled. To clarify what appears some misunderstanding, the cost to the district was $109,000. That was a settlement amount, and facing a potential for a $400,000, you know, judgment. That's why the decision was made. Ayala is still at a standstill. I had left a message and received a message back from Mr. Roper and Roper, and he's in a quandary as well. We don't really know what to do as far as getting this thing moving. I don't know any other way to put it. Some suggestions that have been made would be to, you know, request that the chief judge of the 10th Circuit, you know, do something, but, you know, I don't want to write that letter, and I'm sure Mr. Roper doesn't want to write that letter. So I can't think of off the top of my head, I can't think of a motion that could be filed. You know, we're just kind of at the judge's mercy. At some point, you know, hopefully she'll make a decision. So unless the board wants to direct me to do something or to take some sort of drastic measure, we're just sitting. Mm-hmm. So there has been, I've been dealing with the commercial properties. Is that Unit 7? Those commercial properties over there by 27? Is that the Unit 7? Or is that Unit 2?
Unit 7 or 6?
Yeah, anyway, the district has Unit 2. There's some commercial lots on Unit 2 lining 27, and the district inherited some architectural review restrictions. And we've had some communications with a person or a group that's wanting to buy some of those lots about having those, or us waiving those restrictions. We had drafted a letter. Basically, there's a building that's already in existence there, and Tanya and I dealt with dealing with their attorneys. We basically said yes. The architectural committee didn't have any issue, or probably in all actuality did not actually review the building that was put there. And so we had drafted a letter that basically says that it's okay as built, but my communication was with them. They do not believe that's sufficient, and they're wanting a resolution from the board that they can actually record. I have staved them off at this point, but I just wanted to make the board aware that that is something that is being sought. To my knowledge, I don't know that that those architectural review restrictions have ever been enforced by the district. But they are, we do have the ability to do so. What I'll probably do is prepare a memorandum detailing, putting it in more detail, and if after you review the memorandum, you can decide whether or not we want to bring something to the board at the next meeting.
Okay.
Other than that, I'm nothing else.
I got two things for you.
Okay.
Number one, you just said the Griffin cost us $109,000. I believe $18,000 of that was for services rendered, so in actuality, it was only $91,000.
Correct.
And secondly, is in the paper this morning was an article about the school board getting sued for $3 million and losing the lawsuit. The article continued to say that the school board only has $200,000 to pay against the $3 million because that's their insurance limitation. My question is, we've kind of gone through the same scenario here. What is our insurance limitation? In other words, at what point do we become at risk of a lawsuit?
I think was our limit 200 on that.
Kurt, I can research that for you.
Thank you.
I will.
Well, I think it was 200, and then it was raised after that liability, but we lost a lot of money. We lost a lot of money. And it's hard to go out there and start talking to people about assessments when you're in hundreds of thousands of dollars that we don't have. So I think we ought to keep that in mind. And that didn't come from this board, of course. They come from the previous board. And I studied that case thoroughly. I got most of it right here. I'd like to have a copy of the dismissal order just to kiss it and put it away. Because I think we got lucky. I really do. The mistakes were made. And I'm sure knowing this board, I know that ain't going to happen again. So I'll stop at that, but I got a heck of a lot to say about it.
Okay, Tanya Kennedy, General Manager. Speaking of the Canadian tour, our driving range is going to be used this weekend, and we are warning our contractors to be aware of the golf balls. And not only that, we might have to relocate some of their personal vehicles where they're sitting now. So I think that's going to be a good recommendation, especially starting Monday. And I know our staff will be very vigilant. If we do get too many golf balls, we'll assist.
We'll help clean up.
Yeah. So
And we will get a lot of balls out there.
I have a feeling we will, because you were watching someone on the driving range yesterday. And so it's very dangerous, we know that, but we want our contractor to know that, just be aware, especially early morning.
That was Mike.
The Highlands County Property Appraiser granted our application for exemption on certain district lots and tangible property tax related to the golf course maintenance equipment. The total savings related to the exemption is estimated to be $25,000. So that's good news going into our next budget.
Hey, all right. Hey.
Thank you, Ron.
It's half our road.
This savings, it's going to be reflected, during the first budget workshop, and I want to thank the Finance Department for their hard work and their research going into this application. Second, I have, in 2013, the Deer Run Homeowners Association approved for 270 district lots to be annexed into their association, along with the Board of Supervisors' approval. During my review of the resolution, I found that the restrictions were never recorded with the clerk's office, nor was the annexation agreement executed. I was able to obtain the necessary signatures for execution, and yesterday, well, not yesterday, but the Deer Run deed restrictions will be recorded with the clerk's office next week.
Good.
The Deer Run deed restrictions allow for a minimum dwelling on the golf course, no less than 2,000 square feet, and if you're not on the golf course, it is 1,600 square feet. So we have an additional, now these 270 lots, 4 years ago, were in the Sun and Lake name, okay? So that's why we were able to have the annexation done. Now, we are recording these deed restrictions against those lots. And we only anticipate it to cost maybe several $100s.
Great.
And I think I've misquoted that number. But we're going to, David's office is taking care of that next week.
And have we, I know two of our members live there.
Yes.
Have we contacted if there is a president and
Yeah.
try to get them going so we're not paying for any of their stuff that we should be paying for? The Deer Run Association?
Well, going forward, I think it would be a good idea for myself to meet with the Deer Run
Yeah, I do too.
Association president, whoever that is, to
Yeah.
talk about all the additional lots that don't have the restrictions on
Right.
them.
Because I think they'd all be concerned that they'd all be under one. Wouldn't you guys think that?
Well,
think
we
it's a
tried
good
to get
idea.
that.
We tried that one.
We tried that, and the problem is those that are not under it really don't want under it. They're getting the benefit without me being restricted, is what it amounts to.
Well, maybe if it becomes active, because I know Deer Runs wasn't very active compared to a couple of the other ones we had, like Manor Hill. And so that might help if they get, do you guys have,
They didn't do anything in it.
I guess so.
do you have association fees and stuff yet?
Sure.
I can certainly meet with the
I think
president.
you just said
That's
we
an
didn't do
option.
anything.
Well, I didn't know. I mean, I know we were.
If you don't know, keep him up.
Yeah, I know we were doing stuff with legal stuff for them, and I know that's an association thing, not us.
We'll get it figured out.
Oh, Ron?
Just a point, you mentioned square footage of 2,000 and 1,600. Make sure you say living area.
It does say that. It does say that.
Oh, that's true.
Under air or living or whatever. Excluding garage, lanai, I think, some wording like that. I don't
I'd have to
know.
look into it to see if those restrictions say that, but you're correct, yes.
That is very big, if that's not.
Okay.
It's bigger than the county.
All of you have a copy of the community survey results and comments. I believe that our survey was successful with an average of about 130 surveys received. Not each person answered all of the questions, but about an average of 130. The surveys received were from 75 golfers and 60 non-golfers. I hope that all of you do take the time to take a look at the surveys. There are really good comments in there. A lot of these comments we have discussed in past board meetings. So if you do have any questions, you can always reach out to myself or to Neil. Proposals are due for electrical engineering services related to our utility projects on April 18th at 2 p.m. Additionally, we received 3 bids for our roof at the district office, and we're going to bring you our vendor recommendation at the April 28th meeting. The drainage project with excavation point they're wrapping up in Unit 2, I believe, today, and they're going to start on Arvita Avenue, which is expected to take maybe 4 to 5 days. And then after Arvita, we're going to talk with the contractor about either starting on Calatrava or Sunrise. It just depends. We need to make sure we have all the paperwork in on Sunrise Drive before we can start. Our maintenance facility is moving along. The building structure is almost finished. I don't know if any of you have taken a look at that. You can't miss it if you're on the driving range, that's for sure. The panels, they're going to start installing next week, and they have poured the slab on the pole barn.
Yeah.
Last week, staff met with the Florida Wildlife Commission. FWC will be fencing approximately 4 miles at the north end of the district, and that the fence is going to border Avon Park Estates at the north, Balboa to the west, and Columbus to the south. And they anticipate the project to be finished by the end of the summer. It's fully funded by the state of Florida, and this project will assist in a lot of the issues we have with four-wheeler and off-road vehicle traffic at the north end. Anything else you want to add to that? Oh, and dumping, yes. We do have a lot of dumping and hunting. Finally, we would like to have our first budget workshop on Friday, May 12th, to discuss the general fund and utility fund budgets. Initially, I mentioned to you, and Omar mentioned to you in the email about starting the budget process on Friday, May 26th. We feel that we'd like to split up the general fund and utility fund discussions separate from golf. We feel that there's so much information that we could spend a day and a half talking about everything we have this year. So we'd like, if it's okay with the board, to start the general fund and utility fund discussions on May 12th, and then continue to the golf budget discussions on May 26th.
Okay.
Will that be okay with the board?
Sure.
Okay. All right, that's all I have.
Is it? Unfinished business.
None.
New business.
None.
Committee reports.
No reports.
Public comment.
Bill Norcross, resident, for the last time today. I want to address the golf course with Jim a little bit here and try to nail him down on a couple of things. Now, the time I spent on the golf committee, we had several issues. One was the condition of the fairways on Turtle, and then also the ends of the cart paths. We have very expensive golf carts that come off the end of the golf cart paths, and for one reason or another, it's very jarring and disturbing. We've been promised for years to have it done. Now, I really appreciate Raymond Perez and the innovation that he has used as far as improvements and different techniques like was mentioned about using potash and then plant invigoration. But the problem is, we were talking the last meeting, 2 meetings ago, Ron Gow's going to come in here, and he's going to have a budget of $35,000 to put additional tees. Okay, that's fine. Now there was some talk about adjusting a trap on 11. Okay, that's fine. But the same old things keep on coming up. And as a member and a former committee person, I would like to have, what are your plans to address these minute things that can be fixed? Jim?
Thank you. Yeah, we did have the topic of the ends of the cart paths on the golf committee agenda, and we are looking at those to be done. And we work with the golf committee to look at the golf course on a monthly basis. If you're looking for me to address to you to say that you have this little laundry to-do list that you're going to drive me with, respectfully, that's not the way our governance is structured. We got a golf committee and a board of supervisors, and I work for the Casper company to put the course into condition. And that's the priority list that, that I work through. I do understand we want to address the end of the cart paths, but as long as I'm here, the to-do list on the golf course will never end. There'll always be improvements to be addressed, and we've got them prioritized now, and we're working our way through them.
Well, please don't take offense, because I appreciate the work that you've done, and as I say, with Raymond's expertise coming in, the greens have never been any better, The course is, we've had compliments from outside people. Recently, somebody from Fort Myers came up and they said, gee, you know, we always come up here every year, 14 or 15 years, and every year is getting better. But the problem is these simple fixes which aggravate people day and day and day. And we've brought this up many times in the golf committee thing, but it just doesn't seem to have the priority that I think it should have. Now, okay, fine, you know, I understand that you do have other priorities and you're going to do what the golf committee has suggested. If Bob Butts has anything to say about it, fine. But I would just like to really kind of like prioritize those two items. I know that they're going to do something on the fairways and then maybe on the ends of the golf cart path. Not all, but just the simple things that are just a mess.
Oh, and I agree. We have the sod ordered for the ends of the path, and we did in last year's improvements, which I had said we're going to go back to the Deer Run list. We do want to look at continuing the experiment to try to figure out a way to cap off the ends of the paths. You know, we think that possibly an angled pour of concrete might help. So we are right on target with what you're saying and trying to do. It just isn't, it is a long list, and we are going to fix the ends of the paths with sod, but we know from history and the wetness that those are going to come back, and we do want to find a permanent solution. But our agronomist who travels to over 50 courses does not have a solution for it. So it's difficult. A lot of times there's things that seem easy to people who aren't in the industry, like it would be an easy fix to fix the end of the paths. And there isn't one that we know of. So we are going to address it. We are going to, sod all those. In fact, I rode with Ramon 2 weeks ago and we talked about, how we would do it specifically, sodding one. Since you have multiple entries to the path, you can't sod everywhere because then they're just, the carts will just go right over the new sod. So we need to do it in 2 stages where we sod a certain part and close it, and then open that to sod another part. But we are addressing it. I wish, I hope we can get to it faster.
Well, I thought I addressed the problem last year on the committee, and I even brought in a form. It was 4 feet wide, 12, 11 inches deep. It would probably cost $20 to have it fixed. Now, that's the severe thing. It's a drop-off. They have to have a certain elevation so that you don't get that rutting. I mean, it's a small problem, but it's an aggravating problem. And I hear from a lot of people that, it's so upsetting that this little thing isn't fixed. And I just wish you'd have it as a high priority item.
Good morning, Pat Holmes, resident. I want to compliment the board and Sun and Lake. Last month, the month of March, we had a breakfast here for a nonprofit organization, and I want to thank you very much for what you people have made available for us. We've been doing this for about 4 or 5 years, and the only cost to us is a cleaning cost. And I want to say thank you all.
Good morning, board and residents. I'm a resident of the Sun Lake community and developer and investor. And I would like to know...
Sir, what's your name?
Gus Ibanez.
Okay.
I would like to know what are your policies to enforce rules and regulations. I built a duplex on Granada, was finished in January, and then a week and a half ago, somebody assumed that I put some trash or assumed that I cleaned a lot next to me, which I didn't. And instead of asking, they wrote me a citation. Oh, notice of citation, I'm sorry. Or warning. And when I came to Sonoma Lake office to confront the gentleman, he said that he assumed I did it, all this. Then when I said I didn't do it, then I said, are you going to write a notice of a warning violation to the person that did it, which is the owner of the lot? He said he wasn't going to do it. So I would like to know from this board if it's selective enforcement or we have a criteria to write notice of citations to people. And then that gentleman in front of one of your servants here started making false allegations that was coursing out and threatening me with the police, which I never did course out or nothing. So I felt very aggravated. I own currently 8 lots here in Sonoma Lake, which 3 of them are going to be developed within the next 3 weeks, which just got out of the architect's office. And I don't feel comfortable being harassed and telling me that the rules are enforced to some people and not the other ones. My background is a lot about law enforcement, regulation enforcement. And selective enforcement is not allowed in the state of Florida, and I won't allow it either. So the rules are for everyone or for no one. Thank you.
Hey, Mike, can you fill
Mike?
us?
Yeah, we don't know
Let me
what he's
explain to you
talking
what happened.
Okay.
On Granada, there was a duplex built, which he was a contractor. The lot next to it, there was a lot of trash dumped on the lot where he was building. When Bob cited him, he assumed that was his tarp. So Bob cited him, and Bob was actually doing his job. When we investigated, we could not prove who it was, so we apologized to him. But there was trash left there, and there was also trees. We did find out in the end that was the homeowner, the landowner that actually pushed the trees over, so it wasn't the contractor. But because it was right next to the site, they did assume it. We did get complaints about the construction site. I did ask him to put a dumpster there, and he did it. We did have a few problems, but I thought they were all solved by now. And if they're not, I'll meet with you anytime.
Nobody ever apologized to me about it. Bob never apologized to me.
Bob didn't.
He even threatened me with the police that day for Mr. Omar. He was making false allegations. Omar was there, a witness. I never cursed out, and he said was cursing out. And he threatened me with the police to kick me out of the office, number one. Number two, now there's some trash there, and nobody have been notified. When I spoke to you this morning, Mike, with all due respect, about the trash right across the street, you were answering, well, we just buy and clean it.
Right.
How come I got written a notice for supposing when in this country you're innocent until you're proven guilty? I was already guilty before we even proven innocent.
Well, the trash that was...
You offered, which I said, you're great. You offered to pick up the trash across the street. Why you guys, instead of writing me a note and aggravate me, didn't pick up the tarp? Either we're all in bed or we're all on the floor. Like the rules are not for someone. That's called selective enforcement. I'm not going to tolerate it. Period.
Well, I apologize for that, but we just assumed, because you were the contractor next to it, and you know as well as I do that Bob assumed that it was your tarp. Now, there were shingles underneath that tarp that were from construction, so that's why he assumed that. But once again, I apologize for that. But the trash across the street was dumped off by somebody who...
I told who it was, and I'm willing to testify. I'm not afraid of anybody in this county. I'm a law-compliant law...
Well, I'm talking about the table
the trash across the street, and the trees, he said it wasn't right, and notice of violation to the owner of the lot for the trees. But it was writing me a notice. That's called selective enforcement. I'm not going to tolerate that.
Mr. Ibanez, we made a mistake, and we apologize.
I want the rule to be enforced to everyone.
I agree.
To me.
I agree, 100%. We made a mistake.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question, though, Mike. Where did the trees come from there?
The trees were from the property. We didn't, according to Mr. Ibanez, he told me that it was the owner of the lot pushed them over. Now, that's as much as we know.
Now, are we going to talk to the owner of that? Because it looks terrible.
We're trying to get a home there.
It looks
It's
terrible.
From somebody from Miami. Until this morning, I did not know it was the homeowner or the lot owner that pushed them over.
Well, I would think Mr. Ibanez would want them removed too, but it looks terrible.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Okay. Go ahead, Charlie.
You
satisfied? Because I don't want to. I always forgot when I came up
You don't want to
here. This is a quick question. The board had a proposal out for the outside of the dining area for screens or, I don't know if we ever came to a conclusion what that really was, but is that ongoing or has it been buried in another contract proposal?
Charlie, it's just taken a lot longer than what I personally have thought too, but we are going to have, we tried to set a meeting the 25th of April, which will be changed to some other time, but we're going to meet with the architect within the next month.
No.
Is it combined with the kitchen? In
Yes.
that?
Yes. The
Why is
kitchen
that?
project became clubhouse renovation.
Huh? We don't want it? I mean, can that be changed? Can't they be two separate issues? It seems to me like the kitchen architecture and all of that is totally different from doing something to the out. I sat out there yesterday afternoon because we had a dining event or whatever going. The Highlands Awards, and the sun's coming straight through. You're blinded if you try to sit on the west side. So anyhow, that's my comment.
I can
I'd just like to know where
ask,
that is.
but it did become one project and it was two separate to begin with.
And President Gilpin, my perception is we have one architect to evaluate it, and maybe there's a concept or a feeling that it's one project, but I'm looking at it as separate. It could happen at separate times.
Yeah, there's no requirement.
So there's a logic that when you're closing the kitchen, you might close the patio at the same time, but they're probably going to take vast different amounts of time. But right now, our major thing is to just get a needs assessment done and get the architect in and have him starting to make some recommendations to us. But it is ongoing and they are separate. To me, there's a good chance that they would happen at the same time, but there's also a good chance that they would happen separately.
Charlie, what about your roll-down screen curtain you suggested? I thought it was a good idea.
Bad idea.
What? That was my suggestion. They don't take those.
Save a lot of money.
Morning, gentlemen. Larry Bertetto. I apologize, I didn't have my hearing aids in this morning, so I didn't hear some of the things. And the question I have, what did you decide on this methodology? Just drop it, or what?
Dan, do you want to answer that?
We are going to have the consultants come back and present to us their thoughts and ideas. And of course, I'd like the board to be able to present their thoughts and ideas too about what this review will entail before we award it. So we didn't award the consultants to do a review yet.
Are we opening a can of worms? Is someone going to go back then? And I realize when I looked and I looked at meeting of August of 2014, and I looked at some of the assessments and I can see where maybe people object to, although I haven't heard any complaints about about how they're assessed. And people may say that back in the Hitherlands are paying, what, $299 a year? Do you have to go back then and realize when those assessments were officially put in how many years ago, what they were for? Why was it assessed for properties back there? Apparently, no one heard my question.
If you want an answer to that question, there's not, the issue is not why were they assessed. The issue is why are they being assessed that amount?
Didn't they decide that when they put the initial assessments in back in, how many years ago? I believe they probably took into consideration they had to assess that property to put in the existing roads and drainage at some point. I mean, that's why they're there, the assessments. I've owned property over in Cape Coral, and when I inherited the property, it was already there, the assessments, and you can go back and say, well, don't assess me this now. I just think that we've opened up a can of worms, and the gentleman that was with this company, and I was at that meeting in 2014, those guys did a bad job. And I'd certainly stay away from those people. I would look at some alternative ways. If you want to change things, to look at some alternative ways other than what this guy or this company brought up, because the whole thing they had was based upon taxation, I believe.
That's your 3 minutes.
Pardon me?
That's your 3 minutes.
May I have a couple more minutes?
2 more.
Thank you. The point is I'm glad you have a watch. Ruined my train of thought now, thank you. I guess when I look at that, there is also a fact in there that if you look, they compared a place on Navarro Street, and I believe what the assessment was on Navarro Street was different than an assessment that was on, I forget the name of the other street, and both of them, they did not take into consideration the amenities. They took into consideration the square footage. So I hope that you guys get rid of that company. Thank you for listening to me.
We got your point, Larry. Any more public comment? Okay, discussion to and from the board.
Anybody got anything?
I do.
Go ahead.
But you guys I'm last, so somebody got some.
Go, Kurt. All righty, I'll go.
I can't do it first.
For the last couple of months, Tennille and I, with Tanya's blessing, have been looking into a project, and don't we have it up on the screen? Oh, she's coming? Okay.
Yeah, she's going to.
So when she gets here, I'll continue in a second. All right, so what I want to do, or I should say what we want to do, is ask the other board members here a couple of questions. Why would you own a horse when a car can get you there 60 times faster, is number one question. Just kind of think about the advantages of having a car over a horse. Second slide, why would you use an outdated landline when a smartphone is everywhere you are? Again, advancements in communications. Why would you relax with an old box TV when an ultra slim widescreen smart TV is more enjoyable? And fourthly, why would you promote our products and services with an antiquated billboard when a state-of-the-art, eye-catching information center is the norm today? So obviously, our focus here is the state of Florida did us a injustice and tore down our billboard, which is similar to the one on the left, and by mistake, and so they're willing to replace it for us. In terms of funds, they're going to pay us back the cost of replacing it. So to me, that would give us an opportunity to actually research and look into upgrading that billboard to a digital billboard. In the next slide, we'll kind of share some facts that we know for sure are true. Sun and Lake changes their message every 75 days using the current billboard approximately 5 times per year. In other words, We have one message that stays up 75 days, and then we change it, and we move on to another message. So we're kind of limited to about 5 messages a year. Digital media allows messages changes every 10 seconds, or 180 messages per hour on a 2-minute cycle. Competition ads last 8 seconds versus we're recommending a exposure of 10 seconds. So we're going to give our customers an advantage over the competition. We feel it's a stronger exposure for clients versus local newspaper ads, meaning that our message is up every 2 minutes, every day, 24 hours a day. A newspaper comes. I don't know what a newspaper ad costs, but let's say it costs $300. Person looks at it, he flips the page, the ad's gone, never to be seen again. My point is we have repeated exposures as we go along. On the next slide, competition charges about $795 to $995 per month versus we're recommending a $600 per month charge. So giving all local advertisers an advantage to advertise with us. It would create a profit center for the district to help reduce special event expenses. And I'll show you how that works a little later. Sun Lake could sell over 60% of the valuable space, creating revenue for the district. Some of the things that we could promote on our billboard would be special events. You know, we compete for golf outings with other golf courses in the community. One advantage that we could offer these people that maybe have their outing at Country Club of Sebring or Pinecrest or whatever is that we can promote their outing on our billboard for them. We could promote it the week before or whatever. We also have special events, you know, Oktoberfest, whatever. You know, we cannot advertise those items on our current billboard system because we have to buy a special vinyl wrap for that. This is just a matter of a digital computer change. It takes very little time and it's very cost effective to do that. Another advantage that we can offer, last year in 2016, we did $60,000 in revenue in weddings. We do have a competitor for space in weddings, but again, here's an advantage that we can offer the party is that once you have the wedding, we'll put it up on our billboard for 3 or 4 days or a week, announcing your wedding. You know, I think that's a plus to the people that are getting married. We could also advertise land for sale, which we have a lot of land for sale. That's another item we could promote, which we can't promote now. Obviously, we can promote our restaurant. We could promote menu changes. We could promote golf courses. If we have tennis or pickleball tournaments, we could promote that. We can just talk about the district in general, the amenities of the district as well. We can talk about our bulk storage facility if we ever get to that point. Banquet facilities, we can talk about that. We can talk about the golf courses or the golf carts having GPS for a more enjoyable outing. Again, these ads are running day in and day out, every day, 24 hours a day. And at night, obviously, a digital billboard stands out like a sore thumb. When you're driving, you can't miss it. So the message gets read. The competition charges roughly $150 to change their ad. We could do it for far less because most of it we could do in-house. Of course, all this costs money. And this might be hard to read, I guess. So I'll kind of read it to you. The research we've done so far is the cost of a digital billboard is roughly $150,000. The Florida Department of Transportation is going to give us roughly $10,000 back for the billboard that they cut down. We have been selling lots and we have generated almost $100,000 right now of money that is not in the current budget. So taking that $100,000 and investing it in this digital billboard leaves a balance of $40,000. The cost of operation of a digital billboard is roughly $600 a year for insurance. The sign and license permit is about $550. The electricity cost is about $125 a month or $1,500 a year. So the cost of operation is around $2,600, $2,700 a year. Currently, we are paying $1,080 for these 5 vinyl wraps, and they get replaced. at $5,400. If we run 12 ads every 2 minutes, so Sun and Lake would retain 5 ads where we pay nothing for. We could sell 7 ads to other clients at $600 an ad, generates $4,200 a month in revenue, or roughly $50,000 a year in revenue. So the point is, in the first year of operation, we have a balance of $40,000 cost on the billboard. We would generate $50,400 in revenue, so we would actually, in the first year, make $14,000. After that, accounting for the credits of stuff that we're paying for now that we wouldn't pay for in the future, we would generate $54,500 in revenue every year, and over a 5-year period, almost over $250,000 in revenue. To put that in terms, in the red box on the right, in our 2016-2017 special events, we have Trick or Treat Festival for $10,000, the holiday event for $5,000, the New Year's Eve fireworks for $6,000, the Dash and Die for $10,000, the Independence Day fireworks for $18,000, which totals $49,000. This billboard would pay for all those activities and would still have a $5,000 profit. So we're asking the board to think about this and give us some direction in terms of where we want to go, because right now we're getting no advertising at all on 27, and to me this is a ideal way of increasing revenue, offsetting expenses, and we'd like to go forward with this project in terms of getting an RFP put together.
Very well done.
Thank you.
Excellent job.
Any thought on how, on a new billboard, how long do they guarantee them, or how long does a maintenance contract go with them?
Part of the RFP, we've already talked about that. The billboard would have a 5-year, 100% paid labor and parts warranty, and a 72-hour response time. So these billboards are put together like little modules, and the module can burn out. It's a digital, or I should say LED type billboard. So we're saying as part of the RFP is that they would guarantee it for 5 years, labor and parts, and also they would repair it within 72 hours.
Okay, so where's the guarantee? That's not a maintenance contract you're talking there, it's a guarantee.
Right.
Okay.
How would you plan on getting advertising in terms of who's going to go out there and advertise?
Tennille has assured me that it will be a slam dunk.
with outside advertising?
Outside advertising.
Really?
Well, our inside advertising, we can do whatever we want.
No, I understand we can do that. I'm just saying the revenues from the outside.
Just think about.
Would it be something like the carts? I mean, that wouldn't
well,
go
yeah.
up on us.
Well, look at it this way. If you advertise on our golf carts and you take the full bowl package, it's $5,000, right? Okay. I'll give you a billboard advertising for less than that. So my point is, you got Turner Furniture, you got the hospital, you got all those doctors up and down 27, you got Wild Turkey on the other side. I mean, if you drive up and down 27 and look at all the other billboards, there's churches are advertising. I mean, special events are being, everybody is into this advertising because I think it's very productive in terms of getting your message out.
I totally agree. Absolutely. As long as Tennille's going to step up to the bar and say, I'm going to go out and find the people.
She's up to the mic right now. Give me her blessing.
I mean, that's the key right there.
Didn't the newspaper come out with an article here a while back about there's so many of those signs on the, now I'm not taking them as a registry, but whatever, but they were just saying there's so many of them, there could be trouble and so forth. I don't believe that, but I like this idea.
I think it's a great idea.
I didn't hear
No,
what.
just-
Okay. One, in the location that we had the static billboard, would be the location that we would propose possibly putting in. We'd have to get, permission from DOT to put it up there. But there's virtually no electronic billboards there in Avon Park area. So we would be virtually coming into Sebring, we would be the first one. Now there is one that's been built recently just down the road on the left-hand side. But, I agree there have been several put up in the past year, especially. But as far as selling advertising, if you go past any of those billboards and you sit there and watch the advertisers on there, a lot of them are different on every billboard, and I think the opportunity is huge as far as, we'll probably we'll easily fill those spots, especially being competitive with our pricing. And if we just want to offer it to our Sun and Lake businesses to begin with, I know the hospital, I can almost guarantee they would jump on it. And a couple of the medical groups may as well. There's just so many opportunities, endless opportunities for us to utilize this and helping sell banquets and weddings at the golf club and GPS advertising, bundling advertising, with the GPS advertising. There's just a lot of different opportunities we could utilize it for. I'm very excited at the thought of even having it, because it is very challenging when we do a billboard. We have 5 categories that we typically target, recreation, community, golf, restaurant, and golf and restaurant combined. So, it's hard to get the message out 5 times a year without having to change the billboards in and out every time. And like it is laid out, it's about almost $1,100 to do every single time. So that's why we don't do it more often.
So we won't be doing those.
Correct. That would go away because this would replace.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
What do you guys want to do?
I think it's a good idea. Let's pursue it and get a little deeper into it.
Well, just like Kurt was saying, he wants us to consider it. I'd love to think about this and talk about the monies and so forth with with them and so forth. But up front, I think it's a great idea. Anytime we can do something in the future that's going to make us money, instead of us just spending money or losing money, then we can. I think we ought to look at it.
Yeah, I think if we can make money and it doesn't become a bust, how could we say no? But it's just, again, got to make sure that we're not spending all this money and not being able to recoup it.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that.
We have to look, I think it's a great idea. From the surface, looking at it quickly.
So how do we do it, Tanya? Do we ask
Just take
Kurt
a look.
and Tennille to give us some more information?
We'll take a look at the research Kurt did, okay? He prepared the PowerPoint. If you have any questions, reach out to me or to Neil regarding some of that information.
Okay.
And, we don't have a billboard right now. We don't have a way to advertise.
Okay, is that on hold now? Is that maybe, because I was going to ask you why it hasn't been put up yet.
Yeah,
Now I kind of got a feeling.
I have been talking with the state's or the DOT's attorney. We gave him a quote. We gave him a quote a long time ago from the vendor that we had, and after sitting around for a couple months, they called me back and said, now we want a second quote. I know Tennille's having some trouble getting that second quote, and there's also the answer that I still haven't heard back as to whether or not they were going to pay to have the billboard put back up, or if we were going to pay to put the billboard up and they were going to reimburse us. I still don't have an answer to that question. So what I think I'll do when I get back to the office is email that attorney and let her know that this is something we're looking into, and confirm whether or not the state is going to hand us a check for what they tore down, basically, or if we're going to have to go through some additional red tape in order, if this is a project we do move forward with, what that's going to mean to the billboard that got destroyed.
Well, writing the check, does that mean they're going to give us what it would cost us to put it back up?
Mm-hmm.
And it was only 10, did I hear Kurt say? Only
Yeah, I think it was 10 or
Wow.
12, something like that, $10,000.
Seems like it'd be worth a lot more than that.
Well, yeah, when you want to check.
Yeah.
This time we're on the taking side.
The wood structure plus the lost advertising. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I meant. It
yeah.
should be a lot more than
I mean,
$10,000.
we agree, but
And I think, I don't know if it was mentioned, but this would just be a single-sided billboard. This would not be double-sided like majority of the electronic billboards are in the county. So if that location, say the DOT isn't going to approve that location, we would then look at another location where a single side would work. That, on lands down 27 that we already own.
Yeah, and Kurt, I'm assuming that the proposal includes the permit. Did I hear that right?
Yes.
Yeah, because the billboard that we had was exempt from a permit because it was only used to advertise the district. And so since we weren't generating any revenue from it, we did not have to have a DOT permit. But based on this, obviously we'll have to have a DOT permit, but that's included in the proposal.
Okay. Keep it going, and we'll see what we can do. All I have is I talked to Jim a little about this, but I'd like Mark Camp and Jim to kind of get together and work on some of our membership issues that we have, and how we handle that, Jim. I think it would be up to you and Mark if you want us to come in a little at a time, but there's still a lot of issues with the memberships that I think should be worked out to your benefit. We have straightened out in the last year a lot. I mean, our membership, the whole thing was a mess with who we billed when and how we charged. But there's still, I get a lot of questions about, and I don't even think I've come to it to ask you the answer to it. What's a family membership? What's a corporate membership and how many are on it? And it just seems like there's just so many things, and I cannot believe, and it wasn't your fault, but in the past it hasn't been, there's no answers to it, no regulations, or we don't even know how some of it has happened. So if Mark, I know I didn't ask Mark, but if you would.
Thanks. Don't say no, Mark.
If Mark won't, I'll find somebody else.
No, Mark wants to.
And you won't be making any decisions.
I was going to say, prior to being on the board, I obviously had a lot of questions about different types of memberships, and we have a declining membership now, so maybe we should look at it. I'm not, but what I would do is I would be in the information gathering.
Yeah. And
I would not be making recommendations. This would be the board's decision,
yeah,
others.
It's a board decision. I want all five of us to know.
That's a can of worms. I do have questions about, maybe we should have longer memberships or shorter memberships. I don't know the answer to that. I've always had questions about, I think the free program, and my first thoughts would be is actually very, very good. What we won't know until after this year, what it really yields in membership. So I guess those types of things could be investigated. I too have questions about corporate memberships. I mean, if I'm going to pay $4,500 a year for a family membership, I want to know why somebody else might be paying $500 or something. But if this is not worth, it's up to the board. And I would poll the board to say, I don't want to spin my wheels. I don't want to take Jim's time. If this is not something that the board really sees as necessary gathering.
I just think we need to have policies, and we don't have policies on. We've straightened quite a few things out in the last year, but we still have, and I'm sure you've heard them too. The family memberships, is that two sisters? Is that two brothers?
Right.
Is that two live-ins, or is that a man or I mean, we need to, I don't disagree with anything what we're doing, but we need to have it written down and have it set up. I know the 80-year-old issue is coming up of what, and we should look at that. But I hope any of the supervisors who have questions would go to Jim or go to Mark Or they'd probably have to go to you, wouldn't they? They can't talk to Mark.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I look at this as one of our most important issues right now, just because of our aging process.
Right.
And, the district is changing, and we've got to look forward and, develop a plan for 5 years and 10 years as to how we're going to handle our current members and how that's going to intertwine with our future members, and also our play that we bring in until we can reverse the trend of memberships going down. So I think this is a great idea. Number one, obviously, is defining in writing, each membership. And actually, I think working with David at some point to make sure that I don't really know the legal definition as a district,
Well, me either.
what we can do. I know as a private club, or as a private business, you have probably a different leeway of how you market things than we might have as a district. And then obviously assessing, we're going into budget time, so we need to assess and look at each membership and make sure they balance our vision of what we're trying to do with growing our membership and the revenues that they create. So I think this is a great idea.
Well, I hope you don't mind, but I'd like you and Mark to work together on that. And
that'd be great.
if we have any questions, we'll go to you. Okay? Thank you. Do we have anything else?
I don't.
Meeting adjourned.
Okay.